Welcome to the blue attack path. So the first technique we're going to start out with is working off of what we learned in the orange attack path and continuing because we compromised a web server and now we want to use that web server to move forward. So first of all, just a review from the previous attack path. We found some credentials to QDPM through a password spray. Then we used those credentials to gain access to the web application. Then we found a vulnerability related to the version of QDPM that we had. And exploiting that vulnerability allowed us to gain a web shell. Then with that web shell, we identified a user account that had a weak password, and we were able to authenticate to that user account. With that account, we were able to escalate privileges to have root. We don't necessarily need root privileges, but we will. It's good to have them. So first of all, we're going to observe that we gained SSH access through the Vagrant account in the orange attack path. So first, we need to identify how to access SSH on the web server, because the web server is sitting behind a pfSense firewall in our lab. So on the pfSense firewall, I have some ports that are port forwarded. So from the jump box, which currently is 192.168.169.105, you need to log in. And sorry, real quick, this is only for if you're connected to the VPN. So you need to first connect to that IP with your username, team X, X being your team number. So if you're team 2, the username would be team 2. Then your team password, which would be unbreakable team X being the number, bang 801 being the area code. And that password may change because it's in this recording. And then connect with your team port, which will be 22,001 if you're team 1, 22,003 if you're team 3. So go ahead and attempt to authenticate to the jump box with the account provided. You can use PuTTY, which is on your Windows 10 workstation, to do that. Continuing on, if you connect to the school's VPN, you're using a Windows computer because they only allow that the VPN client to be used on Windows and Mac. Well, if you would like to use Kali, you have probably a parallel VM or another VM running Kali, or you've installed Kali through the Windows subsystem for Linux or WSL. So for me, I have a Windows 10 VM. Let me show that to you really quick. It's right here. This Windows 10 VM is running on a computer behind me. So if you notice the two monitors behind me. So what I did is I have MOBA Xterm running. I connect to the IP address of my machine over there, and I have launched VMware. The VMware console launches through the X server and provides me the GUI on my Windows 10 computer. So with this connection with Windows 10, I have connected to the school's VPN. And then with that connection, I need to be able to connect to my Kali machine, establish a port that the Kali machine can use through this computer to get into the VPN to then progress into the network. So to do that, I'm using PuTTY. And my Windows 10 VM is not NATed on the computer behind me. It's actually using the NIC where it's physically connected to the network. So that gives it an IP of 10.27.20.60. Yours is definitely different. So I load it. Here is the key of the connection. In PuTTY, if you come down to SSH, you're going to have tunnels. And here in the tunnels, you need to add a remote auto connection with a source port. And for the time being, please use the ports that are given in the example. So I've used port 32,000 with the IP address that is behind the school's VPN of my jump box, which is 192.168.169.105 on port 22. And then I add that connection, and it should look like this with an R in the front. I will normally go back here after I set everything up, give it a name of a session, and click save. Then I don't have to put it back in and restore the settings. So to load that, I can either click load, or I can double click on the saved session. So a PuTTY window will open, and this is an authentication to my Kali computer. So if I type in Kali, spelled it wrong, and then I put in the password for my Kali computer in the VM that is behind me. So the VM is actually right here. And I typed in the password wrong. And it connects. No magic or anything, but if you look at the connections by running SSLTP, you'll notice a connection on port 32,000. What that does is it allows me on port 32,000 from Kali to tunnel all the way through to that 192.168.169.105 computer and connect via SSH. That's all for this video. I will resume the next video continuing with this process.